Turn your living room into a joyful, hands-free playroom with CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Your child sings, moves, and learns right alongside JJ and friends, all on the big screen. It's designed thoughtfully to spark speech, rhythm, and coordination through songs and active play. Try an ad-free, safe, and interactive way to make screen time part of their learning and growth. Parents love how easy it is, voice-controlled and frustration-free. Kids love every moment of singing, laughing, and playing along. It's fun for them, and it's feel-good for you. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Just search Volley in your TV's app store and start your free trial of CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ today. That's CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Search Volley and start your free trial today.
Volley. Welcome to Homeschooling Outside the Box, the podcast that encourages and equips moms to homeschool an outside-the-box child. Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and today we are going to talk about getting started with homeschooling. So if you are a veteran homeschooler, don't tune out necessarily. We are going to talk about some of the preliminary stuff, but it might be stuff that you've overlooked or maybe want to revisit, and so it could be valuable for you to listen in. If you are a new homeschooler, maybe just started in the last year or so, or if you're just thinking about homeschooling, this podcast episode is really aimed towards you. But again, remember, veterans, you might have friends who are thinking about homeschooling, and you might want to pass it on to them. I'm going to share some tips about how to get started homeschooling. So the first thing I want to do is welcome you to the adventure of homeschooling. I don't know what led you to this decision to educate your child at home, but I'm pretty sure you probably want to do your best. I know for us, it was a series of events that happened with one of our sons who was on the autism spectrum, and we just really weren't getting what we wanted in the school system. And so we started looking at other options. We had never intended to homeschool, so it wasn't even on my radar really, but God really put a lot of people in my path who were homeschooling already. So I was very fortunate that when we did decide to look at homeschooling, I had a number of people that I could call for help, and they were really, really helpful. I realize not everybody has that. So I'm hoping today's episode maybe could be that for somebody who doesn't have a really already built-in homeschool network in their area. When you get online, it can be very overwhelming if you just do a Google search on how to homeschool. I'm hoping today to really streamline some of that stuff and help you have some clarity. Homeschooling is not for the faint of heart. There are going to be challenges that arise, and you're going to need some guidance when you first get started, or you might get so frustrated you think this isn't worth it. But with a little bit of clarity, I promise you it's well worth any challenges you come up against. So you're going to hear lots of advice. Like I said, if you're one Google search away from becoming overwhelmed. So try to be very cautious about that. And there are some things I really would love for you to do before you start searching. My best advice is that you settle on some sort of core principles before you even begin. So figure out things like, why are you homeschooling? Try not to let that answer be out of fear or out of pressure. Try to find a positive reason that you are homeschooling. Even for us, when we recognized that we wanted to pull our son out of the school system, we had let the dust settle. It wasn't like a passionate decision. We really took some time to process through that before we decided for sure. And we even went back and forth a little bit. So we had pulled him out, and then we tried again. So I'm talking more about our final decision to not be in the school system. So that takes really some soul searching and some thought. So figure out why you're homeschooling. The other question you want to answer is, what is the purpose of education? Okay, not what the schools tell you the purpose of education is, but really, truly go back, way before compulsory schooling. Why does it matter? Why do we need to be educated? And if you're a believer, that answer is going to, of course, end up aiming in the direction of glorifying God. So figure out what the purpose of education is. A lot of times people just take this for granted. We're kind of on autopilot in America. We just, once they get 5 years old, we just stick them on a yellow bus and off to school they go because that's what everybody else does. So we're wanting to stop that process and really start deciding why, really look at why we do that. So what is the purpose of education is your second question to answer. And once you answer these questions, I think you're going to find a lot more joy in your homeschool. You're going to be more focused. You'll have a clarity of purpose. And that is going to be the foundation for every other decision you make, all the way down to which math curriculum do I teach? It's all going to funnel back to that because, for example, if you are homeschooling out of fear for any reason, then you might be making fear-based decisions when it gets to choosing that math curriculum. And you might be scared that your child's going to fall behind or scared that they're going to miss out on some opportunity for a scholarship one day in college, maybe if that's what their plan is, and so this poor little 7-year-old is going to get nailed with this math curriculum that maybe doesn't work for him or is not right for him because you're sort of operating on a fear-based level. So let's get that out of the way right away and get really solid on why you're homeschooling and what the purpose of education is. All right, so I'm going to actually work through helping you answer some of those questions. So don't panic if you're listening and you're like, I have no idea. I don't know why I want to homeschool. I just feel like I should and my friends do and it seems appealing. So don't worry if you don't have all that settled right now. I'm going to help you answer those questions in a very simple process called a mission statement. I'll help you work through that. I'm going to help you pick your homeschool method. I'm going to talk to you about choosing the right learning environment for your child, the right learning space, like the physical place in your home that you do school. I'm going to help you create a routine, decide on which subjects to teach, and choose your curriculum. So we're not going to knock all that out in this podcast because that would be really, really long, but I'm going to kind of start a new series where I walk you through those. We are going to talk about organizing your space and planning your year, your term, your week, and your day as well. And I'm also going to make sure, this is a commonly skipped over part of the process, that you and your spouse are on the same page. Okay, because that's a lot of people that I'll speak with, that's what's happening is, well, my husband doesn't agree with this, or my husband doesn't think this, and it's like, okay, backpedal. That should have been cleared out right up front. Not to say that issues are not going to come up. They might. But by and large, you want to make sure you and your spouse have pretty similar answers to those two questions. Why are you homeschooling? And what is the purpose of education? So if you guys have vastly different answers, you need to go out for coffee or, get a babysitter, kind of hash that out before you take any steps further. We're going to make sure you and your spouse are on the same page. We're going to check state laws to make sure what you're doing is legal. And I'm going to encourage you to join a support group and pray over this whole decision because really that's the other part. You can't, if you're doing this and you know that God's leading you to do this, you cannot go wrong. But if you're not settled on that point, then a lot of things are going to go wrong. So we really want to make sure every step of the way is a prayerful decision. So if you listen to this podcast or some of the others in the series and you start to get overwhelmed or concerned or have other questions that I don't address, by all means, feel free to get in touch. You can put a message on the Facebook page. You can email me at cindyrenna@cindyrenna.com. And then, of course, make sure you're subscribed to the blog because this is actually my freebie giveaway for subscribers. So everything that I go through in this series is going to be in paper form, and I'll reference that over and over in the different episodes. But if you want to get ahead of the game, you can go right now to cindyrenna.com And right at the top of the page, it says something like, here, it says, yes, you can homeschool your outside the box child. Because I truly, truly, truly believe that. And I believe that homeschool is, in most cases, the best option for outside the box kids. But it says here, get your free Get Started Homeschooling cheat sheet and go from overwhelmed to equipped. And then you click Get Started Now, and some automatic email comes your way that has everything I'm going to say over the next few weeks or months in paper form. And so you can go ahead and get started with that as soon as you would like. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Pray about it. So again, this one sounds a little bit obvious if you're a believer, but you can easily skip this step. So just pause for a moment, even now, and just pray over the decision to homeschool. Ask him to help you answer those questions. Ask him to help make things really clear, to put the right people for you and your family in your path, and to eliminate distractions. Pray for specific help over the next few steps and try to involve him in every part of the process. Just be mindful that he cares about this, and he cares about your child's education, and he cares about which math you're going to pick and what homeschool group you're going to join. And he's already lining all those things up. So he has got his arms around you. Be connected with him through this. Okay, the next step is to get on the same page with your spouse. So what does your husband think your homeschool is going to look like? If he leaves in the morning and works a very typical job, does the 9 to 6, 9 to 5 commute, and comes home, he's not going to see most of it. So if in his mind he thinks it's school and you're waking up at 7 and the kids are going to be dressed and their beds are going to be made and their teeth are going to be brushed and breakfast, and by 7:45 you guys are sitting down in a classroom type setting and you are standing in front of a blackboard and you're instructing, if that's what he thinks is happening, but you're actually unschoolers, or you're actually Charlotte Mason schoolers, or you attend a co-op once a week, and then you do your own thing on the other days. And all these things, if they sound unfamiliar, they're going to get a lot more clear throughout this series. But the point is, if he thinks one thing is happening, and then another thing is actually happening, and you're finding it very successful, he might not find it successful just because he doesn't think it's the same thing. So get really clear on that. A lot of people who are not in the homeschool world think that we do school at home. Like, they think that that's what it looks like. They don't realize how much fat you can cut off your day because we're not lining up to go to the bathroom or raising our hand to ask questions or waiting for 3 other people to give their opinions. And, you can cut hours off of your week, and you really do. So it might be shocking to him that, what do you mean you only did school in the morning? And you're saying, man, we got a lot done. But he's thinking, you only did 3 hours of school? Well, and that was one of my husband's first questions. He said, well, what are they doing for the other 4 hours in the school system? I said, that's a great question because we got everything done in way less time because we cut the fat off our day and we plugged, education became a life, and we were reading literature at bedtime and doing devotions at breakfast, and we were plugging things into our already existing life. And so it didn't look like we were sitting down and doing school, but we were. And so really make sure that you understand what he thinks it looks like, and then kind of help to educate him on some of the options, that just because it doesn't look like a classroom setting, or just because it doesn't look like what they're doing in the public school system, doesn't mean that we're not doing what we need to be doing and what's best for our family. So discuss with him expectations, changes around the home and the budget. These are huge. Okay, if your kids go to a public school, or you have little ones who don't need curriculum right now, and then you switch into homeschooling, it is going to drastically change your home. It is a lifestyle change, and it's going to affect the whole family. And that's really great, but it's also something that you need to discuss out in the open first. Because if dad thinks it's going to be, he comes home and everything's the same as it was, and then it's not, that's going to cause some tension between you two. So really talk about how things will change in the home, how things will change with the budget. It does cost money to homeschool. So just get that out there. Don't feel bad about that, because we put our money where our loves are and our desires, and we desire to do well with this. We can't expect to do it for free. Now, there's lots of resources that can help you do it affordably. The joke about the Charlotte Mason approach, which is what we do, is all you need is a Bible and a library card. And that's not too far from the truth. You can get away with that. But when it comes to math and your higher sciences, and it's, don't try to make it sound like something it's not if you're nervous about the financial side of it. Make sure you guys discuss that and why it's something to invest in. Most fights, just in general, not just with homeschooling, but in life and your marriage, stem from having different expectations. Even with your parenting, that you expect one thing from your kid, you get another result, somebody gets angry. So that's where most fights come from. So just make sure you're on the same page with all the biggies, and then ask him, what does he want to be involved with? Does he want to help teach? I mean, I have friends who the dads teach the math and the science, or they do, a woodworking shop on the weekends, and they kind of teach them some of the life skills things. There's some dads who really don't care what you teach, not in a bad or uninvolved way, but just that's up to you, and they trust your judgment, so they're not going to kind of micromanage that. But just see where he's at. Does he want weekly updates? Does he want you to discuss what you guys learned every day? Just see what he wants to be involved with. It is such a blessing to have the dad involved in homeschool, and he's got much value and perspective to add to your day. So remember that. Don't think that this is not something he would care about or want to be involved with. Okay, and next you want to check your state laws. So you need to find out things like, do you have to report to your local district? Or do you have to have a cover school? Do you have to teach certain subjects? Usually in the elementary years, there are no regulations on what to teach specifically. But again, just be sure. If your child is currently in school, you probably have to withdraw them, and there's a proper form that you'll need to turn in. So the best way to get all of these questions answered, anything to do with the legal side of homeschooling, is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, or the HSLDA. Their website is a wealth of knowledge. They're homeschooling families, that they're like the pioneering homeschool families from, I believe they were homeschooling in the 80s, and one of the dads, or maybe two of the dads, somebody was a lawyer. And so then they put together this website to be a service to families. You can join their newsletter. You can get they have a print publication that comes, I think, quarterly, and you can talk to a counselor. You can become a member, which is only $10 a month, and you have access to tons of resources when you do that. It is well worth it. Some cover schools will require you to be a member of the HSLDA. Even if they don't, I would consider it. You get teacher cards in the mail, so you'll have a teacher ID, which can come in handy for sometimes Office Max or Staples. Some of those places will do teacher discounts. Bookstores, a lot of, like Barnes & Noble does a teacher discount. Books A Million does a teacher discount, so you can show your card and get your discount. It's great for field trips and other things like that. So I highly, highly, highly recommend joining the HSLDA, or at least going to their website to check out anything that you need to know about state laws. Something else we're going to cover today is a homeschool support system. So the HSLDA is going to be part of that system, but they're not going to be a real personal part. They're going to be more, you would call them if you had questions to answer, but you're not really going to make intimate connections with these people. So I highly recommend that you find a local support group. So with the combination of the HSLDA and a local support group, that's a pretty good start for your support system. Facebook can be a really great place to start looking for a local group. You can check with friends who homeschool in your community or at your church and see where they connect. You can consider a co-op if you want help teaching your children. Just to clarify, a co-op is cooperative teaching. So that is a place where they meet usually once a week, sometimes for a morning, sometimes all day, and different homeschool moms will take turns teaching different subjects. So if you are wanting something more close to the classroom setting, at least once a week, that's a really good option. I know one really popular co-op is Classical Conversations, and there's another group called Libertas. You would have to check what is available in your state or country. So one note on co-ops, they are not a cover school. That's something different. So depending on where you live, you will also need a cover school. This is going to be part of what you talk to the HSLDA about. A cover school simply says, we've got you covered. So you would send X amount of dollars to them each year. Usually it's anywhere from $75 to $200, $350, depending on what the cover school offers. You turn in attendance and grades to them, sometimes progress reports. Every cover school is different. So they're going to require different things from your family. So finding a cover is really based on what you're looking for. If you're just wanting to make sure you don't get nailed for truancy and you don't really care about joining with a group through them, then that's fine. Join a very low-key cover school. Some cover schools have co-ops or field trip groups or different activities. So if you're looking for a more all-in-one experience, you might want to look for a cover school that also offers a co-op or social gatherings. Okay, so that's co-ops and cover schools. And then you have social groups. So social groups is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a group where you go to meet other homeschoolers and play at parks during school hours or whatever you're going to do. It's a group that you do life with. So in this case, that's going to be a group where you're probably not teaching your children anything at that time. It's not really academic based. They don't report to anybody for you. It's just people to hang out with. So another big benefit of joining these social groups or co-ops or covers is that a lot of times they will have curriculum sales and you can save money on your curriculum that way. Remember that this step is for you and your children. Okay, so you need support and encouragement, and your children need to socialize. So how much of each you need is certainly dependent on your family, but every mom needs other moms to encourage and equip her, and every child needs a group of kids to share experiences with. We're hoping out of that experience comes friendship. Okay, we were designed for relationship, and a good local homeschool group will provide ample opportunities for you to do life with other like-minded families, and most importantly, develop true and lasting friendships. Because one of the biggest questions you hear about homeschool is about socialization. And socialization and friendship are two different things. My children know how to be in a community and be productive citizens, and they can be social, okay? But that's different than having an intimate friendship with somebody, which is really what we're after. The last thing we're going to do today is develop a simple homeschool mission statement. Okay, so this is going to be like your homework. So after this podcast, you can go check off your list, pray about it, talk to your husband, do all those other things I mentioned, and then hopefully before you listen to the next podcast, you will have developed a homeschool mission statement. This does not have to be elaborate, okay? It's not a Fortune 500 company. You're not building this big enterprise, but it's very important that you have clarity of purpose and focus for what you're about to do. Okay, so you have to be specific. That's the one requirement. Why are you doing this? So answer the question, what is the goal? What is the whole point of us homeschooling? So fill in this sentence. This is going to help you out. If my children blank, I will consider our homeschooling a success. So that could be if my children love Jesus and love reading, I will consider our homeschooling a success. What is your reason? If you go over to the website and print this out, keep this page handy, okay? Or you might want to jot your homeschool statement, just that one sentence. If my children blank, I will consider our homeschooling a success. Keep that somewhere you can see it. It's going to be an invaluable motivator on tough days because, yes, homeschoolers have them too. I know a lot of what you see on social media is to encourage moms, and so a lot of times homeschooling looks very glossy on Instagram and Facebook, and there's these elaborate read aloud sessions where we're eating popcorn and everybody's engaged, and there's these very we're on these nature walks, and not just me, but all homeschoolers love to say great things about homeschooling because it's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to live your life during your kids' early years and school years. But don't be deceived. There are many pictures that don't end up on Instagram because it's, people are having a meltdown, or somebody doesn't want to do his math because it's stupid and I hate this. And you still get all of the kinks of childhood with homeschool. You're not exempt from them. But you do get the joy of creating an environment that is more focused on family and relationships and helps you, in my opinion, to navigate more peacefully through them. Make sure and join us next time. I'm going to talk about helping you choose your method. Thanks so much for listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box. If you are loving the show, please consider heading over to iTunes and leaving a review. This is a really great way to help other moms find out about the show so they can be encouraged and equipped just like you are. For more encouragement for yourself, head over to cindyrenna.com. I've got blog posts on there. You can listen to past episodes of the podcast, and there's even a shop if you're looking for something to help equip you more in your homeschool. Things like book lists and a nature journal and all sorts of fun stuff. So thanks again for listening, and I will talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Since 2011, American Giant has been making everyday clothing with extraordinary effort. Not in far-off factories, but right here in the USA. We obsess over fabrics, fit, and details, because if you're going to wear it every day, it should feel great and last for years. From the cut of a hoodie to the finishing of a seam, nothing is overlooked. Our supply chain is tight-knit and local, which means less crisscrossing the country and more care in every step. The result is durable clothing, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, and denim that become part of your life season after season. This isn't fast fashion, it's clothing made with purpose by people who care as much about how it's made as how it fits. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.